Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. Today it is time to have a look at the Warbond shop for July of this year. It obviously has a lot of pretty nice vehicles in it, and as always, it is always nice to have the opportunity to get stuff for free in War Thunder, and that's basically what the Warbond shop does for you. Completing daily tasks and special tasks means that you are able to get a bunch of different stuff from the Warbond shop, whether it's helmets, whether it's camouflages in the form of bushes, or whether it's decals and stuff like that. Everything is on offer when it comes to it. So the premium vehicles available this time are the Mk.Vb 75, the A6 M2 Chinese edition, the Panzerkampfwagen Churchill, the Spitfire Mk.Vb Trop for the Italians, the F4U-1A for the Japanese, and then the T14 and the T35, the big chunky. So what we're going to do is we're obviously going to get into the game and have a look at them, but this is also the decal, which is on offer, adding more to the Tigor series, once again, with the most ridiculousness that it brings along. This thing is definitely special, as you can see right here. So, yes, I don't know what happened in World War II when it came to drawing tigers, but there seemed to be a lot of individuals who struggled with said idea. So let's get into the game, let's have a look at the Warbond shop for this month, and let's have a look at what at least I would personally go for. So the first thing is we're going to have a look at the test drives. So the test drives available, now we have the Centurion Action X, the IS-2 number 402, the AMX-13 SS11, the RU 251, Type 75 MLRS, the A2D, the T34-100, and that is it. Unfortunately, no new profile icons yet. Hopefully we see them pretty soon, but we do have some new, I don't think we have some new helmets. The helmets have actually been removed, but we do have a bunch of stuff such as decorations if you want them. So, let's go. The Centurion Action X is a 6.7 premium vehicle for the British, and overall it is a pretty nice vehicle. It's pretty much just another Centurion with the stabilized 20-pounder. Has obviously access to the APDS, which did get nerfed about a month or two ago, but it's still pretty good, and the shot, which it has, also has good penetration, so you can pretty much pen whatever you really feel like. It's got a bit of a dodgy turret, so a lot of people can sometimes bounce off of it, but it's not insane armor. It's pretty much just a premium Centurion, so if you're looking for a premium option of one, there you go. The next one is the IS-2 402. This is the Chinese IS-2. I've never been a fan of the IS-2. It has terrible gun depression, it has a terrible reload rate, it has a terrible turret rotation, and at the same time, its general usefulness is only as a heavy tank. It doesn't have really any secondary weapons, it doesn't get artillery, it costs more to spawn in, and at 5.7 you have a lot of bruises which can just go straight through its armor. So most of the time, in my opinion, an IS-2 is not very good. Sometimes in a down tier it can bully stuff really badly, but you are limited a lot by that reload. The other thing as well is because China has a really good 5.7 lineup, like you can see it here. Tu-2S, the T-3485s, the Hellcats. I don't know where you fit it in unless you add it in a different way. So yeah, that is something to think about. I personally... Why is the game? There we go. I personally think that when it comes to the IS-2, I would just give it a miss and just grind through China normally. The AMX-13 SS11, for some... Oh no, it's red because I already have it. So the AMX-13 SS11 is an AMX-13 75 with access to missiles. I've had a lot of fun with it over the years. It also fits really well into the 6.7 lineup of the French, but it does have a few issues, such as its gun is not very stable. The SS11s also are keyboard guided, so once you fire them, you have no control over the vehicle itself, so you'll get stuck in areas where you will get killed because of the fact that you have no armor. Generally, it's a nice scout vehicle with the ability to take on pretty much anything at even 7.7 with the missiles. I don't think it's the best vehicle to go for, but it is at least a little bit different. I feel like the servers are not doing so well in War Thunder, so give it a little bit of time to move around in this video. The Rü, or the RU-251, is one of the most overpowered broken tanks at its BR. It has a very high skill ceiling. It isn't exactly the easiest thing to play, but with heat FS that it has, the 90 heat FS at 6.7, you can pretty much pen whatever you want. You have the speed of a go-kart, you have artillery, you have scouting, and you have the ability to be able to get into a plane really easily with it. And Germany at 6.7 has a lot of options to run around in. It also has a pretty powerful 6.7 lineup, Panther 2, Tiger 2H, you know, the Slar Tiger if you want to bring that in. Also has stuff nowadays like the Jag Tiger or the Jag Panzer 4.5 if you know you want different options. 6.7 is a very strong BR for Germany, and the RU-251 is just the cap on top of it to make sure that it unlocks the ability for that. So yeah, it's a very good vehicle, really good rewards on it as well. Definitely would be my pick when it comes to what we have seen so far. The next one is the Type 75 MLRS. If you're into memes, this is for you. If you're into anything else, this isn't for you. This is an awful vehicle. It has 130mm rockets on it and a 50 cal. The rockets, if you are too close to the target you're trying to kill, will kill you with backsplash. And at the same time, because they only have 50mm of pen, if you don't overmatch stuff, you actually won't be able to kill it. So what actually happens with this machine is you end up just kind of sat there, not really doing anything, and dying. Or you end up being exploded because, well, they blow up your ammo rack. So yeah, it's not a fun machine, at least in my book. I'm sure a lot of other people have fun with it. I would give it a miss unless you're looking to meme around and make some cool clips on YouTube. The next vehicle is the A2D. This is one of the most prolific grinders in the game for the American aviation tree. At rank 4, battle rating 7.0, I think it might be one of the highest rank 4s when it comes to its battle rating. And it has a little bit of everything. You know, it's one of those machines which has a really nice bomb load. You can see two 2000s and 8500s, or two 2000s and 20 HVARs. You can do a lot of damage in this thing, whether you're in air realistic or ground realistic. And in ground realistic, you have a pretty nice lineup around it if you have the T29. And if you don't have the T29, you could bring it in with stuff like the M46 and then the T34, which is still incredibly strong. The A2D can also be up-tiered pretty efficiently, because once you get in it, all you really need to do is get the bomb drop off and you're good. The other thing to also mention is this thing can actually run down some of the jets in the game. So it isn't just a ground attacker, it can also be used as a fighter if you wanted to. But no matter how you want to use it, it is very good at grinding. It has some really nice percentages on it, and at the same time it's incredibly easy to play. Like, the percentages are 570 and 255. So when it comes to your SL, you're probably not making a lot. But when it comes to the research, you're making a ridiculous amount of RP. The T-34-100 for the Soviets, I have heard people like this vehicle. I'm not a fan. The T-34-100 does stick in that 6.7 area. The Soviets don't really have a good 6.7 lineup. It struggles, mainly because they don't have like a solid 6.7 heavy or medium, which a lot of other nations have. Instead, they have 6.3 and 7.0, so normally you get up-tiered or down-tiered into it, depending on what you are. So that T-34-100 can definitely fill that spot. I just struggle when it comes to its gun depression, when it comes to its reload rate. It used to be a vehicle you saw a lot, but nowadays it really isn't, because of the fact that there's just so much stuff which has been added, which is just generally better than us. The 100mm with the BR 412D is a fine round to be able to kill whatever you want in it, and also at the same time, when it comes to its X-ray, you know, you have the four-man crew, so you can just pen the turret and off it goes. It's an okay vehicle, it's a fast vehicle, its armor will sometimes bounce stuff, but overall I wouldn't say it's that good, because of the reload and the gun depression issues. So if we look at all the vehicles that are on for test drives right now, number one is easily the RU251, the second one is the A2D for grinding purposes, then it probably goes to the Centurion Action S for 3, AMX13 SS11 for 4, and then the Type 75 the T34 100 for 5, and the Type 75 in a very, very lowly 6th. So here's the attacking Tiger once again. But yeah, if you're interested in the vehicles, let's go through them and I'll give my opinions on them and see which one you want to grind this week. Of course, the Battle Trophy box you can sell on the marketplace if you want to. Also, at the same time, it hasn't changed, so it's still the same as before. Even though it's Battle Trophy Vehicle 2 on this one. Hopefully we get a new Battle Trophy Vehicle box at some point. I'm sure we will, either in the near future or in the far future. When it comes to looking at what we have on offer, the first one we have to mention is the T35. This chonker is one of the better rank 1 battle rating 1.3 land ships. There's a lot of them in game, the Fahrzeug, the Independence, the Rogue Go. And this is probably the best one, mainly because it has 10 people inside. It has a decent amount of armor, not because it has a ton of actual armor, but it has a ton of internal components. So being able to actually get through them and kill everything is kind of hard to do. Also at 1.3 you can just hold W and run around. It's also one of those vehicles where if you want to squad up with a bunch of people, and you have T-35s, you can just kind of take over the match very effectively. And because of that, I would definitely say it's one of those vehicles that won't be very good for grinding, because obviously it's a rank 1, it's not going to give you a lot of bang for your buck. But at the same time, it's a vehicle to go relax in after maybe a hard day at top tier or something, or maybe if you've had just a terrible run of matches, why not just get into Big Bertha here and just smash stuff. Has 245s and also 76, enough penetration to go through stuff and enough HE filler to kill it in one shot. It's a very, very fun vehicle to use. But the issue is, of course, as I said, the grinding. The Mk.Vb 75 is here. It's nice to see a ship being represented when it comes to the Warbond shop, so good stuff there. The Mk.Vb 75 has a 40mm on the front and a dual 20mm on the back. It's a very, very early rank 1 gunboat, and the 40mm is going to be your main armament. I don't specifically really like this 2-pounder, just because of the way it works. I much prefer a Bofors, which we see on a lot of other vehicles. So when we look at the Mk.Vb 75, it is kind of nice to have, because there are a lot of weak British vehicles at lower tier. But once again, it's only really a rank 1, and once you get past that rank 2 area, this thing just becomes completely ineffective. So I think it's nice to see. It wouldn't be my first option, but for a premium ship, it's not a bad idea because of the fact that the British, the British low tier isn't the best in the game. The next one is a Zero. The Zero is a fundamentally great vehicle in War Thunder. Well, pretty much all of the Zeros are, culminating in the A6M5s being really good and the A7M2s also being incredibly good. The A6M2 is no different. The only issue with something like an A6M2 is that it doesn't have a lot of cannon ammo, but that's completely fine because you can stick to targets like glue. You literally can't get off of them unless they dive away at ridiculous speeds, and at that point you've won the engagement anyway and you can just reset. The problem with the Chinese A6M2 is a lot of the time you'll come up against the Japanese A6M2, so if you're interested in a skill matchup, then you know that is for you. But at the same time, if you're interested in a little bit of variety, then this may not be for you. Overall, it's a really good vehicle, rank 3 as well, so it can research effectively rank 4 and below, and with the amount of things on top of it, such as look at that reward and also look at the RP gain, this thing is going to get you through those early tiers of China very, very quickly. The Pz.Kpfw Churchill is a mainstay in the captured 4.0 lineup for the Germans, the KV-1B, the T-34. the Churchill, and then you got stuff like the IL-2 that you can throw in as well. They're all premium, they all make a ton of money, and the Churchill is pretty good at that as well. One of the things that used to make the Churchill feared as the German Churchill was the fact that the main counter to it is in the German tree, the long-barreled 75. Nowadays, with the changes to the DeMar formula and also additions of other nations, the British and the Americans can easily go through the turret on this thing, so it isn't too hard to deal with anymore. But the problem is dealing with it as a second or third spawn when maybe you don't have the vehicles to deal with it. Normally you would run something like a Panzer IV or a KV-1B as first spawn and then push this as second spawn to secure an area, and that it can do really, really well in. But as a primary vehicle, it definitely struggles because of the lack of speed, and also because its armor generally isn't going to bounce too much stuff anymore. Has a crazy reload rate though, and that 57 can do a ton of damage when it comes to just being able to plink, 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 plink. You know, a lot of penetration on the gun, a lot of decent damage that it can do, and also has good gun depression, so you can angle the armor pretty effectively. When we look at the penetration, it does go up to 132, 102, so you'll be fine on going through pretty much anything at this BR and just plinking it to death. So, pretty nice vehicle, but I don't think it's a primary vehicle to take. Then we have the Spitfire Mk.Vb Trop. This is a wonderful vehicle for the Italians, rank 3, so it's useful for grinding rank 4, 3, 2, and 1. Has obviously access to the Hispanos, which do get a bad name in game. If you run stealth on them, or if you run air targets on them, then you will do a ton of damage with them. You just have to concentrate your fire and make sure that you get close to targets before you open up. I see a lot of people spraying with them from like 0.8, 0.7 out kilometers. Make sure to get up tight and close at 0.4, and then the Ratatat, because the thing is, the Spitfire has the maneuverability to be able to do that really effectively. So just why not do it, you know? Why not be as accurate as possible when it comes to these machines? So yeah, the Mk.Vb Trop is a wonderful machine. A little bit front heavy, but that's okay. The only issue with buying something like this is the Italian fighter line is so good. I don't know why you would buy this, because why not just play the Italian fighters? Maybe you need it as an SL grinder, maybe you need it as a backup for a ground vehicle, but overall I'd say this, even though it's a great vehicle, it's outshone by the Italian vehicles that are in the tree, so yeah. The Japanese Corsair is one of those vehicles that I will refuse to ever play. The reason for this is because it is once again on a nation which counters it, but because it's on that nation, it's not exactly easy to counter. The Japanese Corsair at 2.7 has access to 650 cals, and if it has an altitude advantage, can easily dominate the game. I've seen people use this thing, get 6 to 8 kills in aerialistic battles by just waiting for the enemy to go low, because generally at rank 2 you don't have the best of competition, or you don't have like a ton of people who are able to understand, you know, the general game mechanics of how aerialistic works or how to counter something like a Corsair. So you can easily rack up a ridiculous amount of kills in this thing, and at the same time, because it's rank 2, you can effectively research rank 3, 2, and 1. Whoops. And one of the things is that its reward is 660% SL, so a lot of people use this as a SL grinder very, very effectively as well if they need to. So yeah, it's one of those machines which is crazy good at what it does, which is go high, use energy advantage, rat-a-tat-a-tat, go back up, use energy advantage, rat-a-tat-a-tat, and just do it over and over and over again, because it's one of those machines which, at its BR, I don't think anything can actually keep up with it when it comes to speed. And generally, the counter to this is the Japanese, because they have a lot of maneuverable aircraft, so you defensively fly, you let it overshoot, and then you batter it with, you know, a deflection shot. But this thing's on the Japanese side, so you can't do that, and therefore there's a lot of planes that just get outmatched by it. Maybe you can do it with the British against this thing, with something like a Spitfire, but yeah, normally the Corsair does insanely well. The last vehicle is the T14, the chunky Sherman, has access to a 75mm M3, so it does get access to the M61 shot, very, very good. It also gets access to the APCR, and the T14 is just a thick Sherman in terms of the game. Obviously in real life it wasn't, but in terms of the game, that's what we're looking at. It has a little outer shell on it, which has 50mm worth of armor, which, to be honest, is okay, but it's not really going to stop too many rounds. And the turret itself, I mean, the place where you shoot this thing is the turret cheek, right? It's only 92mm of effective thickness. You go straight through that, you know, you pop these two, and then maybe it bounces down and kills everything else. The survivability on this is not the best, but the 75mm, as usual, when it comes to these vehicles, the American vehicles, is very good. It has a short-stop stabilizer, so you always should be able to shoot first. It also has a 442 horsepower engine, so you can motor about the place as well. I just generally think that if you want to run a 4-3 lineup for America, it's kind of nice to put this in, but it's not massively required. It's not something which I would definitely call out for if I had to do it, because as you can see at 4.3, the problem is you don't really have a lot. So building a lineup around a 4.3 in the form of the T14, what are you supposed to do? Like, do you just add in like the M4A2? Do you add in, I don't know, the M10 GMC? But then you're running a 4.3 with a 4.0 and a 3.7, or an M4, which is another 3.7. So this thing either has to carry you really hard, or it has to carry you to the point where you're able to gain air superiority and do something like the Thunderbolt, or maybe the P38, or maybe something like the P51D, and try and you know, win through that. But it's definitely not the easiest thing to do. I would say the T14 is a nice vehicle, but it's alone by itself on a BR, which doesn't really have too much support in. So if I was going to rank them 1 to, you know, 7, when it comes to usefulness, rank 1 being the best, I would go for the A6M2 as number 1, the F4U1A as number 2, then the Spitfire as number 3. When we're looking at a number 4, it's probably going to be the Churchill. Then number 5 will be the Mk.Vb 75, 6 being the T14, and then the T35 coming in at number 7. Even though it's a lot of fun, at the same time it's a rank 1, and it's not really going to do a lot for you. But if you're looking for a meme vehicle, then yes, of course, it is something to go for. As always, I hope you have enjoyed this video. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. I'd like to thank Ambrosius McClellan, B. Young, Battling Bacon, Blackie, Chris Giltnane, Conte Baraka, Daniel Stanton, Elove Goat, Jay Wilt, Martinez, Trigger Hippie, Universe, Eugens Terry, and also I'm Devilish and Samuel Slick for supporting the channel.